From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up Warchant. Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! Welcome back. Not even welcome back, unless you were here yesterday, in which case you're a good person. It takes a lot of heart to listen to a show of your favorite football team after a loss, right, Corey? Isn't it the natural inclination to go away? Like, I don't need this in my life right now. I got enough in my life going on. I don't need to listen to my team losing and the autopsy, the postmortem on it.
I think people, maybe come for the perspective of the two guys. They've been with us for 8 months now, so they were interested in what our take was, I think, after that debacle.
And they got the take, and now they're back, hopefully. It's Wake Up Warchant. It's Corey Clark. I'm Aslan Hudjavandi. You already heard that. By the way, the new open, that's voiced by my friend Travis Raycheck.
Oh, there you go.
So
T-Dog?
Yeah, so we got people, we got talent on the books trying to help us out. All right, Corey. I went back and looked at the first half of the game, did some tape study for the family.
Okay, all right.
So ACC Network actually did a condensed version, like a 21-minute version game, cut up of the game on YouTube, but they don't show every play.
Well, that's dumb then.
Yeah, so I had to watch like the 2.5-hour full-length version, just had the commercials cut out, and I would just kind of fast forward through it. So I watched the first 2.5 quarters. I didn't watch the whole third quarter. I mean, this is the thing I wanted to ask Willie one time before we even got to this point. Just kind of a philosophical question about, I got into the habit of watching game replays probably 2 or 3 years ago. My thing is, like, where is the truth? Like, if it looks bad on Saturday night, but then you go back and watch the tape on Sunday morning, you're like, well, it wasn't that bad. But that's the controlled sort of, condition of being in a film room watching. Like, all right, well, it doesn't look that bad. But, like, at the end of the day, it didn't work on Saturday. If it didn't look good Saturday, how can it look that much better on Sunday? Like, where does the truth lie? The film or what you saw live in action? That said, the offensive line was not nearly as horrible as I think everybody thought it was, at least going back and looking at it. It was not good. Okay, I don't know, it depends how you want to define good. Good can be a relatively positive term.
Right.
For some people, it's just a notch above horrible. I would say probably C-. I would give it. I don't know if I think that's probably good enough to win against Virginia Tech. I feel like there's plays there to be made. They just never capitalized on them.
Right.
But I mean, it's just crazy because when they did have protection is when they made their bigger plays. The play to Nooney where he got tackled at the 1 yard line. There was good blocking on the outside on that one.
Yeah. Finally, they got a block from a receiver. Yeah.
The throw to Keith Gatton where he dropped it in the end zone. There was actually good protection on that play. He drops the ball. Those two plays were made right there. Who knows how the game changes? It's just bizarre to watch it. So, Jawan Williams did struggle. It looked like, the left tackle spot was definitely a weakness. Mike Arnold looked to have some problems here and there. Just there's a certain play I was watching. I think it was the 3rd and 2 right before the first half was coming to an end because I think they went for it on 4th down, right?
Yeah.
And I think, he moved to the second level of the block of linebacker, and then he left his guy. His guy just blew right by him. Cam Akers, couldn't go to the left, and then he was trying to cut back to the right, and there was somebody already in his face. So, that was sort of one play that jumped out to me. But hopefully it's correctable things. I don't know how badly Landon Dickerson's going to be out of the line, but if Cole Minshew returns, if Jawan Williams can get maybe a little bit better, I don't know if they maybe think about putting Derek Kelly out to the tackle position, but there was – listen, Florida State had opportunities to score touchdowns. They unfortunately did not. And I don't know how you want to look at that, but, I'm not nearly as discouraged now as I was 24 hours ago.
So did you know, I don't know if you saw me tweet it on Tuesday, that they're now 10-11 in their last 21 ACC games?
I hate those stats. Who started doing that stuff?
You hate stats of, like, the last 20 games, how a team's doing?
I don't know. I look at things. And I feel that, there's a certain way when you look at a game, you walk out of it. And everyone used to mock Jimbo, and he'd be like, "Oh, we were out the gate on that one. One more block, and we were out the gate on that play, and we score a touchdown." There was a play with Cam Akers where Trayshawn Harrison came on a speed sweep, like a jet sweep option. If he hands the ball off, probably literally a touchdown.
Yeah.
He doesn't. But some people are like, "I don't care. He didn't do it." So that's the reality we live in. He didn't hand the ball off. Well, it's like things were there. There's things to build off of.
But
the 10-11, the record, that's
the truth. When you want to talk about reality of Florida State football and where it was, that's the truth. Out of those 11 losses, you have a loss to Georgia Tech where it was the only win on their schedule. Literally, that was the only win Georgia Tech had in the ACC. You had the 63-20 loss to Louisville. You had 2 losses where you scored 3 points. All of those players that were in that were there for that are here. That's the culture that is here now. You have a culture that's used to losing ACC games. They're 10-11 in their last 21. None of these guys have tasted any real success at the college football level. And you see that last night. You can try to change the culture with accountability and this and that. They have to learn to win games. They have to learn to make plays. Keith Gavin's never made a play on offense that was a game-changing play. He had a chance on Monday night and he didn't do it. That Cam Akers has never taken a snap and handed to a receiver coming out in reverse. If he does that, it's a touchdown. Like you just said, and Cam Akers has made plenty of plays at the college level, but they don't have the experience on really either side of the ball, but especially on offense, of sustained success, of confidence. DeAndre's made some plays, but he also had number 4 in the backfield with him. I just think when you go broad, when you go macro, when you go big picture, this program, I don't think it's broken. I don't think it was broken when Jimbo left. I think it was bad luck that they got a quarterback hurt last year. But these guys don't know how to win. They don't. They're used to mediocrity.
No, really?
Who on this team has made plays in big games?
Naquan Murray
and Francois. That might be it. They also were there. Well, Francois wasn't, but Nooney was there all last year. And when they needed plays to be made because they were falling off a cliff, he wasn't there to make them. He fumbled in this game.
How did he fumble that ball?
That's what I'm saying. There's the good and the bad with Nooney, and I think Nooney is a good college receiver. I don't think he's as good as he thinks he is, but that's fine. The confidence is great. But you also got to go make plays, man. And he made a play. He got into the end zone. His coach didn't challenge it. So that's not fair just to pick on him, but he also had a huge fumble in that game when they were already reeling after giving up 7 straight points. So when you look macro, there are plays to be made. And Willie's offense was not good, and that's being kind. It was embarrassing would be probably a fitting word for it, especially in that third quarter. I don't even know what you could say about it. I mean,
the first half and a quarter,
they had 250 yards at halftime, and he threw and they weren't empty yards; they were empty possessions. Yeah. But they got down the field and had chances to score. The third quarter, really the whole second half, was an abomination. But I just think you have a program and an offense specifically that isn't used to making winning plays.
See, you say that, but and I agree on that there's some validity to that. But basically what you're saying is this team is coming off a bad 2017 season, which is the truth. I mean, they did not have a good season last year. I mean, the 2016 team won 10 games. I mean, they beat Michigan in the Orange Bowl. They beat the Gators. They beat Miami down in Miami. I don't know how many of the guys that made, DeMarcus Walker's obviously no longer here. Dalvin Cook's obviously no longer here.
So in their last 22 games against Power 5 teams, Power 5, not just ACC, right. They're 12-10. And 4 of those 12 wins were against non-bowl eligible teams.
What does that mean? Like teams that didn't make Gators
a bowl. Didn't make a bowl. So they've beaten 8 bowl teams in the last 3 years. They don't beat good teams. They come close, typically. Michigan was a good team.
Yeah.
But, they haven't proven, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a recruiting dip. I don't know if it was a mindset dip. But it's not all just X's and O's and making the right play or making the right play call. It's a lot of it. But also you'd like sometimes for your guy just to go snatch a ball and make a play. Tamori Terry did that.
He did.
You never gave him another chance. I don't think they were put in a great position to succeed. That's on the coaching staff. I don't think they were coached well. Obviously, that's on the coaching staff. But something has to flip where you get used to winning games again. You don't come out of the gate down 10-0 right away. You don't do that. I'm not giving Willie a pass by any stretch because that was, again, the second half was an abomination. And the way they started the game on defense was gross. But he took over a program that, again, they're not used to winning ACC games. They've lost as many as they've won over the last 2.5 years.
But they flipped everything on its head, though. I mean, they're dancing before the kickoff. The camaraderie is there. They're tighter than ever. Everybody's tweeting, "I'm not giving up on us. Don't you give up on us. We're going to be back." I mean, so there's not a small mind mentality on this team. These guys believe in each other. There's confidence. They've changed everything. But the results on the field have not.
Well, and that's why I think this next month is really crucial. I mean, obviously,
this next month is lousy. We mentioned this early in the offseason was if they were to somehow lose to Virginia Tech, which we didn't think was going to happen, you've got what? We
didn't think it was look
Samford.
This way. There was not out of the realm of possibility they could lose to Virginia Tech, but to look so awful was nothing that didn't even cross our mind.
Yeah.
But so you got Samford, Syracuse, Northern Illinois.
And then at Louisville,
at Miami. But these next 3 games, I'm telling you, just show something. We can't just say we can't. Show something. Do anything. We can't just say these next 3 games are easy. We won't find out anything about this team until at Louisville or at Miami. Man, these next 3 games, 2 of them are losable. If you don't score touchdowns, you can lose to almost anyone. And you're playing you're playing a small team that you should beat easily on 2 days rest, 3 days rest. Prove that you aren't the same guys you were last year, and you just fall off a cliff. Or you win 31-19 or 21-20. Like, go beat the brakes off of Syracuse. Go beat them 50-9. And I know that's asking a lot. Syracuse is a Division I team, and
Eric Dungeon's a pretty good quarterback.
And how are you going to score 50 points? Yeah. But prove that you don't let one loss ruin a whole season. They did that last year. They lost an opener, they lost a couple games to a Hurricane, and they were done. As soon as they lost that Miami game, it was like they checked. Really, the NC State game, but the Miami game they were into it because it was Miami. But once they lost that game, it just seemed like they checked out. Are you the kind of guys that are going to do that again? Or do you have better leadership than you did last year? Are you a better team than you were last year? That's on Taggart mainly, but it's also on the players, man. You only get one chance at college football.
Deep thoughts. Let's pick up on that when we come right back after this. It's Wake Up Warchant. It's Corey Maslon.
You're listening to Wake Up Warchant. It's just a podcast. Be cool.
He's Corey Maslon. It's Wake Up Warchant. If you're not a member, use the Warchant 30 promo code. Get you 30 free days. You missed out on all the good promos that we ran during the offseason. Now it's 30 free days is what you're going to get. So, Corey, I guess, are you more angry? I don't want to say angry. Are you just, that loss, it seems like, how have you processed it? You don't seem anymore. I've kind of moved past it a little bit. I see a lot of silver lining from it. I think there's things that can be quickly improved upon, but to you, this just speaks to a larger problem that still exists with the team?
I just think, man, one turnover doesn't have to turn into 5.
Okay.
And it just seems like that's kind of been the modus operandi,
a.k.a. the MO,
of this program recently, is if it starts poorly, they don't get it back on track. At some point that has to change. You have to be able to overcome adversity. Last year's team didn't. The 2016 team did, we thought. But in hindsight, with more context, I think that had more to do with the schedule lightening up, and then they beat Michigan, which was a nice win for them. But I think that had a lot to do with the schedule lightening up than them making some incredible switch with the way they focused and played. And you just hope that this doesn't. Are they going to be a tough team or not, man? They weren't tough last year. If things got tough, they ran away. Well, things are tough now, and they can say all they want on Twitter, and I get it. That's the right attitude to have. But is it true, or is it just tweets? Do they think they're going to go 11-1, or do they think, oh no, we're going back to Shreveport if we're lucky enough to get to a bowl? But that's what you wonder about, and that's why I think these next 3 games, just how they look, how they play, how they execute, all the nonsense penalties. In nonsense, they had like 7 for 25 yards. They
had 6 going into half.
Yeah, they only had 1 in the second half, but a couple of those are critical. That Cam Akers' best run until the end was brought back for an illegal substitution, and then the next play, Nooney fumbled. Like that derailed a drive.
I think it was Jaquez.
Oh, was it after the big Keith Gavin catch?
Yep.
So they were really, really tough penalties. Some of them offsides by like 3 yards, a cornerback, which I believe gave them made it much easier for them to get a first down. So anyway, they're just little sloppy mistakes that you expect in a first game, especially in a new system. But don't let that be an excuse. Oh, it's a new system. We're learning. We're this is gonna be a tough year after one game. They really chalk it up to that was just one bad game. We can correct it, and then look like world beaters the rest of the way, or is that just not what they do?
Well, I guess where you kind of earn your paycheck now if you're Willie, then, right?
Absolutely.
I would hope so. I mean, I just think things have had to. I mean, we've seen it, we've heard it from the players, unless they've just been selling us, cliche stuff. That things have changed. They're different in terms of the way they believe in each other, want to play for each other. That you're
but
not.
Did it seem different last night as far as the way they battled back from adversity? The defense, maybe. The defense didn't melt.
The offense didn't buckle to me. I don't feel. I mean, DeAndre started pressing. I think coming out the second half, he had a couple throws that were off the mark right from the jump. But, I mean, listen, DeAndre's not a 75% completion guy, kind of a guy. He's going to make some – he made a really good throw, I remember, on the sideline on Terry Wilson the first half.
Yeah, that was a great third down throw.
Great throw. But then there were some throws where there was one where they ran like some sort of crazy, horizontal route to Jaquez. I think when they got the punt blocked, throwing to him in the end zone. And he throws a step behind him. If he throws actually a step ahead of Jaquez, it's probably 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, much more manageable. Maybe they convert it. They're not having to punt into their own end zone and get it blocked. You know, and then the very next play when they get the ball back after the punt block, DeAndre actually has time, overthrows Keith Gavin, they intercept it. I don't know if that was – I don't know if that's just – that. I think that's him pressing, trying to make a big play, wanting to stop the momentum or whatever that Virginia Tech's going to get. But, there was weird things where, DJ Matthews is lining out wide with Trey McKee, and they're looking at each other, and they're swapping who's supposed to be in the slot.
Right.
So, what we're not. And I know this is a new install, but that's all they've been doing for the last 8 months is running this offense. They've been installing it. We don't know where to line up right now. We don't know the snap count on things. Alec Eberle was pointing out the fact that they're really good at Virginia Tech about going from a bare front to a 4-man front and vice versa right at the last second. There was one play in the first 2 or 3 drives where on 3rd down, Ricky Walker, who was lining up over the center, splits out over the guard and the tackle and creates all sorts of confusion. They knew the snap count in the first half. They knew when they were going to snap, and they knew when to change the fronts up and things like that. So when you see that's the minutia, I don't know how much of that I don't know how much of that's install. That's instinct. That's Alec Eberle saying things like, listen, they change things on us, but at the end of the day, you just have to get vertical and find somebody in front of you and hit them. And they're not. They're letting guys go past them. I don't know how much of that's about install. How much of that's aggressiveness. That's just football IQ.
I think some of it has to be about install, especially you want to go fast. I get it. They would hit a big play, and one of the few, maybe when they hit a first down and the Virginia Tech guys decided not to fake an injury, they ran up to the line trying to snap.
Wow, that was a big deal. I thought you guys were blowing that all out of proportion last night.
No, it's a huge deal.
They did that a lot.
That's but there's no rule against it.
Yeah.
So it was smart. And not only did it, as a quick aside, not only was it just fake an injury to slow him down, it's like every time they faked an injury, it turned into a TV timeout. Yeah. So then it's a 4-minute timeout for that defense. And Bud Foster, instead of on the heels, what are they going to do? They always got to dig right back in because they literally got a 4-minute timeout every time they faked an injury because ESPN decides this is a good time to take a timeout even as he walks off the field.
Anti-FSU.
But, I think they're just pro-money.
Yeah, that was
kidding. So what was concerning was they would hit a big play or a first down play, and they'd rush up to the line quick. But then the receivers would be on the wrong side of the field. Yeah. So they'd call a play or a formation, whatever they wanted to do, where the receivers had to go to the other side of the field. Well, now you're down to 20 on the play clock, as opposed to snapping it at 32. And the defenses had time to get set. How many times did they snap a ball where it was like, oh, wow, there's already another play going?
Yeah.
Did that happen?
No.
And if it did, maybe once or twice, that's the bread and butter of this thing. And it never got going. And you have to think and hope that that's because it's game 1. Game 8 will look different. You know, you can practice all you want, and practice is obviously the most important part. August is a really important part. But until you're in the game, that's where the experience really comes. And you hope by Game 7, by Game 8, they're speedier than that. This was a home game, too. How are they going to do on the road when they can't hear anything and they're having to run from side to side like that? So that's what was concerning, is that it didn't look anything like I thought it would as far as pace of play. Even when they snapped it with 27 a couple times, 26, all right. But mostly it was about 20 or 19 because they were all lining up. And then
a lot of that was because they have a certain package they're bringing in guys.
Yeah,
I think they need to limit the amount of guys, I think, in terms of who they're putting out wide.
I agree. I think they are called 3 plays in a row. Like, hey, this is no matter what happens, assume it's going to be 2nd and 14, because it always is. This is our 2nd and 14 play. Get back to the line. So that was one thing that really struck me, was how slow developing some of those plays are. The screens out wide, I think, can work. They don't need to be your. That doesn't need to be your passing game. It's horizontal screen passes. You got guys that can go downfield. You've got a tight end that is a matchup nightmare, except when you run him towards the sideline where he's running into defensive backs because your wide receivers can't block for him. Maybe run him down the seam, down the middle. I don't think they threw him a pass down the middle of the field, did they? I don't remember DeAndre, other than the 50-yard interceptions, throwing passes in the middle of the field other than the one to Gavin. He threw a couple to Gavin, the one that he dropped in the end zone.
He threw one to DJ Matthews, but it was behind him.
He was kind of open.
Yeah, and it was behind him. And I'm not trying to dog, but listen, that's another thing I saw. I feel like everyone's like, man, DeAndre wasn't the problem. I mean, he was not the problem, but he could have provided some solutions
the answer either.
Sometimes, yeah.
And I shouldn't say that. The answer is that he's not the best fit for this
and again,
job. He just didn't make the plays he needed to make.
And I don't think James Blackman necessarily would have made some of those drives. I still think maybe he makes the one to George Campbell, but who knows if that changes anything. Let's talk some more about quarterbacks. So let's step aside for a quick break. We'll be right back after this. It's Wake Up Warchant.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Quarterbacks. Willie's said it many times. It's Wake Up Warchant. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. That when Florida State's had a great quarterback, or when they've had great teams, it's because they've had great quarterbacks. We've talked about, well, how great of a quarterback does he need right now to win games? I mean, does he need a special quarterback to win in this offense? I mean, I know it's only one game. That's kind of a stupid question, I guess, but I mean, ultimately, for this team to live up to the sort of 10-win bar that you and I had set, did we maybe underestimate how valuable I don't want to say competent quarterback, because DeAndre knows what's going on. He's a sharp kid. I just don't know how much do you need the running quarterback thing? Is that something that we maybe didn't consider enough, that he needs a true dual threat guy? Because I think even Justin Herbert ran the ball a little bit more than what we saw to DeAndre on Monday night.
Yeah, in fact, Andy Staples from, I think he's still Sports Illustrated, right?
Yeah, he didn't go to The Athletic yet.
He asked me after the game if Francois was hurt. He's like, why didn't he run? I'm like, man, I don't know, but he didn't.
There was one play that he did. I actually saw that he kept it on a keeper, but nothing developed.
Nothing happened. Yeah. And he didn't scramble much.
No, he did not.
The one of the times he scrambled, his lineman tripped him up, and he fell down near the end zone. Man, I wonder, like the best offense Willie's ever had, the best team he ever had, was that South Florida team where he had a quarterback rush for 1,500 yards. You know, that can be a big part of this offense. And also when you have a bad offensive line or not a good offensive line, which this one clearly isn't, it helps to have a mobile quarterback, man. That keeps them from rushing too hard, you know, because they're scared that you can take off and run for 25 yards any given moment. It slows down a pass rush a little bit. It helps the zone read. It helps your running backs if you keep it occasionally instead of them having to dodge guys 5 yards in the backfield. I don't understand what that was about. Why he did not run at all, and their kid didn't run at all either. And he's a pretty mobile kid. He didn't run at all either. But I just don't understand why that wasn't a part of the game plan at all. And is it just not going to be?
Was that rhetorical?
No, I was asking. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it was a little bit rhetorical.
Well, that's the thing, because
the coracle with the rhetorical.
I think Willie told us at ACC kickoff that, listen, I did have Flowers or Quentin Flowers in Tampa, but he's like, I don't need that. That's not a mandatory requirement. But then when we asked Walt Bell ultimately what helped DeAndre get the job, he said he made less mistakes, less critical errors, and his ability to run the ball. I mean, he explicitly, I think, pretty much said, I mean, that was one of the things that helped his sort of candidacy, was that DeAndre is maybe a little bit more of a nimble sort of runner. And again, I think, it was 24-3. I mean, don't even get into the end zone. But I don't know, that offense, I would think even with that threat, just the threat of it, 3 or 4 more runs changes the way that defense has to play, gives you better running lanes when you do hand the ball off, maybe gives you better time in the pocket because they're not going to just totally collapse on your offensive line and pin their ears back, that maybe more things feed off of that. Yeah, it's just one little piece of the pie, one little piece of the puzzle running the ball as the quarterback, but when you're able to do that, that makes the defense have to think so much more and combat different things. It's so many other things open up and more things become available to you as an offense.
Yeah, and it was really bizarre that didn't seem to be a part of the game plan at all. And so you wonder, okay, are they confident in that knee? Do they just not want him to get hurt because of the quarterback depth? It's odd that there were no designed runs, and I also don't know, and I think we talked about it yesterday, how much of it is an actual true read where he is allowed to keep the ball, or where he's handing it off to him no matter what? How much of that is it 90% a true read and 10% just hand it off to the running back, and he just chooses to hand it off to the running back every time? Is he not seeing it correctly? Or they tell him, hey, man, don't keep it. Because that's what I always thought with Jimbo, is his quarterbacks never kept it on that fake read play. They always just gave it to the running back and then carried out a fake that was meaningless because nobody went with them, because they knew they weren't going to keep the ball. You've got to add that to the game plan, man. You've got to.
Let's see if they will.
I mean, think about the defenses they got coming up, man. Yeah. I mean, what they did last night, obviously they're going to get better, much better. But can they beat the Clemsons and the Miamis and the Notre Dames with their quarterback doing nothing in the running game? I mean, are they going to be good enough out wide for them to just say, okay, we're going to make plays? The offense wise, the quarterback not running, and then so many swing passes into coverage. It wasn't like the guys were open when they were catching it. No. The receivers were getting blocked back so much that you're like, oh, that could be a pick six.
The first drive, first sequence of plays, Nuni just got knocked right back into Cam Akers, on a second down. And then it's that just a drive killer. It's an absolute drive killer.
And I know the object is to get him out. You think you have numbers, get your best player out in space. And if he gets a block or two, he could be like LeBourne, although LeBourne had to make a Peter Warwick Superman play to, but that's the idea, is to get your best players the ball out in space, and maybe they think that's the easiest way to do it, is to throw it to them real quick out there. But if you can't block it up, if your receivers are going to get pushed 5 yards back, get different receivers out there, and maybe quit doing that with the tight end. Maybe that should be LeBourne catching and McKitty blocking on those plays, and we both think McKitty's going to be really good.
Yes.
He's a freakish athlete. I think he's better in the vertical seam game than running a tight end to the sideline. It just, to me...
Yeah, Nuni and DJ Matthews are not very good blocking wide receivers. At least they weren't on Monday night. And it's hard to see that they're going to maybe somehow become pit bulls all of a sudden.
You would not think so. But, defense. I thought the defense was okay.
But see, that's the one thing. I went back and looked at it, and I don't know. I don't want to take credit away from the defense. That defense to me doesn't. They played well enough to win that game. They'll hopefully as well get better as the offense will. But to me, that didn't. I don't know if that's going to be as great of a defense as I thought it was going to be come October and November.
Oh no, I don't think it'll be great. I don't think it'll be the main problem. I think the linebacker play is still a huge question mark, and more like a poop emoji than a question mark. They just don't have the horses. And again, that's not an excuse, but Willie Taggart was left with no good linebackers, really. I mean, maybe some guys are good, they just can't get healthy. And the offensive line is what it is. And those were the two big question marks coming in. And after a game, they are certainly still the big question marks. Again, Adonis Thomas played better than he did in the first. He played better as the game went on. But is that guy, and I don't want to hammer the kid. And it's not his fault that he's starting at Florida State. But is that a guy that's going to be a winning football player for you? Is that the best you got? Because if that's the best you got, God love Adonis Thomas, and he plays hard, but
might not be the best play for him.
It might be tough, and you don't know what Woodby. I thought Woodby was one of your best defenders, and now we don't know what his status will be for at least the next month or so if he had a shoulder dislocated.
I was thinking about this. We talk about depth problems, and man, it sure would have been nice to have Corey Martinez on Monday night. I think.
Yeah,
that would have been a nice option to go to instead of bringing in Bello and switching guys around. I thought Arthur Williams actually played pretty good. I think Arthur Williams gave DeAndre some time. I don't know, was he on the play where he threw to Gavin and Gavin dropped it? I don't know, but Arthur Williams had a really good block and gave DeAndre time on a play that ultimately should have gone for. Maybe it was on the throw to Nooney, but
think about that.
Where are the solutions? So what are the solutions, I guess, Corey? I mean, because I guess Cole Minshew maybe comes back in the lineup. That helps you out, but we don't know what's going to go on with Landon Dickerson. I guess you just maybe hope Jawan Williams gets better, or I don't know if there's any sort. We never saw him play inside. I remember I heard one time at a practice, I think after Corey Martinez maybe had transferred, that Greg Fry told Jawan, hey, you're going to be running with left guard. So I don't know, maybe Derek Kelly swinging out the left tackle, maybe you putting Jawan inside, Cole comes back, and if Landon Dickerson's back, I mean that's a not a completely different offensive line, but it's going to look a lot different. Maybe that helps things out a little bit, at least that point.
And going back to my, I don't want to call it a rant, but my soliloquy in the first segment about what kind of team is this? Are they going to learn to win? Are they going to take this? Are they going to be able to fight through adversity and all that nonsense? Not that what I was saying is nonsense, but it's just I get tired of it.
That's part of the soliloquy.
Yeah. What can they do if they don't get that figured out? You can say all you want about how you believe in each other and trust in each other and go make plays, which they do need to do. But also, man, if you can't block it up, all right, try to get to 6 wins. If you can't block it up, try your scratch and claw for 6 wins.
I don't think it'll be that dire. I think that offensive line they just got to clean a couple things up. And I don't know how much of it's communication. I don't know how much of it is just if it's a mentality thing. The problem is, like you mentioned it, I think on Monday night, on the Tuesday show. Well, 2011, they decided, listen, we're just going to go youth movement. Like, it's just enough's enough. We're going to go youth movement on this.
For the Notre Dame game.
Yeah. There's no youth movement here. I mean, guys like Chaz Neal aren't ready. Christian Meadows has been out for most of the entire offseason. I mean, I don't know if Christian Armstrong's ready to go. Bavion Johnson, his snapping is not very consistent, and this is an offense that goes 100% exclusively shotgun. So that's a tough sort of solution if you want to throw in there. I don't think Alec Everly really was that much of an issue. I mean, defensively, I guess if DeKalen Brooks comes back, that could lift things up a little bit. But then you're losing Woodby.
Yeah.
Sanford Samuels is. I mean, I imagine that ankle is going to be a problem probably the entire season. It's just going to be one of those things that it's going to keep. I would imagine is going to hamper him throughout the year. So
he did play a little, didn't he?
He did.
Okay.
He did.
Didn't he almost have a pick on one of the throws down the sideline? He
was in that area.
Okay,
Levante Taylor
right?
was the one who dropped it. And that's like those are little things like that too. Like Levante Taylor, make that interception. That changes the complexion of the game. And I know it wasn't just one play that cost Florida State, but like they had 6 or 7 pivotal plays that went in their favor, whether it was the Nooney touchdown that wasn't a touchdown or was almost where, Levante drops an interception that, shouldn't be too this shouldn't be too much of a morning session.
It was that's the thing is like it sounds like it's oh no, what is this season going to be like? That sounds kind of like how bad is it going to get? I don't think there's much difference at all. Honestly, I watched the game between Florida State and Virginia Tech. They're pretty even.
But how good is Virginia Tech?
Well, I don't know. But my point, they've won 18 games the last 2 years. So now 19. That was they're 19 and whatever they are, 6 with him in the last 2 years. So they're good. They're a good program. They're not a championship program, but they're top 20, right? And you were there with them. You had 5 turnovers and got a punt block for a touchdown. And it was still a 2-score game with you at their 5-yard line. You didn't play, and Jimbo said it all the time, you didn't play the moments well. The big moments you played horrifically bad, including hold your water when you got the ball at the 1-inch line. Even if he doesn't review it, you should be scoring from the 1-inch line. Hold your water. Let him snap. I mean, that's a ridiculous false start. And it's also ridiculous that when that happened, you're like, well, that probably goes that chance of scoring. They have to go 6 yards now. They had first and goal at the 6 twice and didn't get a yard. So that's not great. And that the red zone is going to be an issue all year if they can't figure out the running game. But they weren't that far off Virginia Tech. Yeah. I think when you watch those two teams, Virginia Tech went 9 straight drives without scoring. So when you watch those two teams, you're like, okay, one team got a little lucky. What were there, 6 fumbles? And Virginia Tech recovered all of them. They got a little lucky with fumbles. They blocked a punt. A replay wasn't reviewed.
I mean,
all of this stuff.
I mean, little things too. That the punt where Logan Tyler got rough. They don't throw the flag on that. There was a run, I think, on the 2nd and 3rd down where Cam Akers, they face masked him and they didn't throw a flag on that. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but again, it's just
so it's not dire in the sense that, oh Lord, we're 21 points worse than Virginia Tech. No, y'all are about even. Y'all are about even, in my opinion, talent wise. At least that night. You could have won that game. You didn't play. You just didn't. There was some bad luck and there were some really bad calls, but you were there in position to win that game, and you just played horribly. It wasn't as bad as 21-point spread would make you think. The 3 points is gross, and that has to change. But we believe it will, right? I mean, we believe that this guy knows what he's doing. I do think this guy knows what he's doing. I'm going to be interested to see if he changes anything at all with what they do on Saturday.
Personnel or just
personnel, quickness, alignment, run plays, quarterback run plays. What changes? What do they see out of this game and say we've got to? That's priority number 1 and that's priority number 2, and we've got to change. Are we going to change our identity? Not change. They don't have an identity. Create an identity and figure something out. Can they? They did not make adjustments in game. Can they make adjustments in season? Yeah. That's where coaches get a lot of their money, man. And again, he went from Willie Taggart's not afraid to make changes. He went from a power running game to this.
Whatever that was.
Whatever we saw, the Gulf Coast offense. So will he be able to make in-game adjustments? Are still a big question mark because it didn't look like there was any to be made. But in-season adjustments, you can make it. You can make them. And is this short week the week to do it? Or do you wait between you see this game and then wait until the Syracuse game? Or is this just we got to execute better?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably a good question to ask him later today is, do they go ahead? I mean, do you stay the course or do you have to do a whole bunch of changes? Because, at the halftime, he spoke to Maria Taylor. He's like, listen, we've been making a bunch of mistakes. We just got to go out and execute better because it's a different level of competition. It's Samford. It's an FCS program. So, I mean, if you stay the course and it all works out, then what do you? I mean, you just say, all right, well, we're good. We needed that sort of tune-up game, which we would have had at the first. Or, I mean, if you make a bunch of changes and it all works out, it's like, oh, well, shoot, if we would have done that, we would have beat Virginia Tech. I mean, it's such a tough. That's the thing. I don't know how much you can. This is more of a I think this is. I don't know how much of this is establishing identity as it is maybe stopping or reprogramming the mentality that you think may be there with this team just not knowing how to win tough games. At least just get a win. Just win again.
Yeah. Well, and one thing real quick, I know we got to wrap up. One thing I'd like to see is their big plays that they made on Monday night, and Lord knows there weren't much, but the LeBourne run, catch and run.
What he did, I thought you're not allowed to do that anymore. I thought defenses are too big and fast that you can't do like
just
a
stop
big
and start like a Peter
big
Warrick.
crow hop and then boom.
So what he did, the Tamorian Terry catch, the Naquan catch, and the Cam Akers run, none of those were just open. Like it wasn't as if the scheme worked well enough that
it wasn't drawn up that way.
Yeah, the Naquan one was the closest because you threw it out wide to a guy that can make a play and your receiver made a block. All the other guys, the Akers one was a guy missing a tackle. The LeBourne one is God-given. So Terry just going up and high-pointed over 2 guys.
Skill.
Those were the 4 biggest plays in the game. None of them came off just we designed a great play. Scheme-wise, We took advantage of a mistake they made. We saw something. We exploited it. He's running free, wide open in the end zone.
We've been building on that all game long, setting it up. Yeah. None of that.
There was none of that. So you got to assume they're going to score 40 or 50 points against Samford. How many of those are going to look like plays that, was it just we got better players than them, or did we actually scheme up something? I say we, talking about from Taggart's point of view or a FSU fan's point of view. Did we scheme up something where a guy was running free, where we confused them? Because that didn't happen at all. Virginia Tech was not confused about anything. You just had the plays you made. They weren't many, but the plays you made was just guys actually going and making plays when they caught the ball. LeBourne caught the ball 1 yard from the line of scrimmage. Nooney caught his at the line of scrimmage. And then Akers made a
Should
run.
have been tackled for loss.
Yeah, and then Terry goes up between two guys on a ball that normally wouldn't even be thrown and makes a 35-yard catch.
All right, we shall see. Let's get back to work, man. We'll go talk to Willie, and we'll talk about it on the next edition of Wake Up Warchant. Thanks for listening, folks.
The Sod Cemetery, Osceola and Renegade, and of course, the Warchant. These are great traditions known to all Seminole fans. If you are a card-carrying, garnet and gold-wearing Nole, don't you deserve a site that is truly dedicated to covering FSU sports? Warchant.com staff has over 50 years of experience covering the Seminoles. Warchant.com is the only FSU outlet with a full-time recruiting analyst in Tallahassee. Plus, it's the only site with a full-time videographer and a daily podcast, 100% dedicated to FSU sports. Why act like Gators and settle for second best? Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.